Hello, and welcome to the third round of Battle of the Decades, the show where I, Chuchu of Chuchu is a Ranker, recap my Albums of the Year series, correct any glaring mistakes I made via my Album of the Year choices, and also indulge in a completely nonsense yet also hopefully fun tournament to find out what was the best decade in music. And on this episode, we are going to be throwing all the twos into the ring. 1962, 1972, 1982, 1992, 2002, and 2012. So, let's have a look at our Albums of the Year roster. From 1962 we have Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music Volume 1 by Ray Charles. From 1972 we have The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. From 1982 we have Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. From 1992 we have Your Arsenal by Morrissey. From 2002 we have Turn on the Bright Lights by Interpol. And from 2012 we have The Idler Wheel is Wiser Than the Driver of the Screw and Whipping Cords Will Serve You More Than Ropes Will Ever Do by Fiona Apple. And as for corrections, we have just one, and that would be 1982. Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest is a great album. It's full of catchy songs and badass guitar work. It's also one of the most accessible heavy metal albums out there. I can't recommend it enough if you haven't heard it. That said, it really shouldn't have beaten the record that came in second place on my 1982 list, which was Pornography by The Cure, which is just simply an album I listen to significantly more regularly. And that's it for adjustments. Now I'm fully satisfied with these selections. So now our battlefield has been prepared, let's be complete rankers and rank into the very fabric of time itself. This is Battle of the Decades, Round 3. Coming in last and netting the 2010s 1 point we have The Idler of the Wheel is Wiser Than the Driver of the Screw and Whipping Cords Will Serve You Better Than Ropes Will Ever Do by Fiona Apple from 2012, which was the American singer-songwriter's fourth LP. And what we have here is a beautiful jazz-inflected album of taut piano-based songs that are notable for Fiona's heightened lyrics, urgent vocal deliveries and a unique sense of percussion that sees a lot of experimentation, such as the use of locking keys, closing doors and dragging your feet across gravel. It's all artistically very high-minded stuff that sounds extremely cool, and there's no question as to how this LP managed to gain its underground cult following. Highlights from an album with no weak spots includes Every Single Night, which is great. The track uses Fiona's sultry voice to its maximum potential by pulling back the instrumentation to the absolute bare minimum and throwing the spotlight totally on the vocals. Jonathan has an off-kilter jazzy vibe to it. Its descending minor key chorus is pretty cool in a miserable kind of way. Werewolf is beautiful with its dramatic piano balladry and eloquent lyrics. I could liken you to a shark, the way you bit my head off, but then again I was waving around a bleeding open wound. The clacking rhythm and Fiona's fraught, shouty vocals grab the attention on the somber regret. Periphery augments its impressive rolling piano lines with some of that percussive experimentation that I mentioned. While Closer, Hot Knife is tons of fun with its sea of timpanis, an incredibly catchy tsunami of relentless vocals. I mean, it's awesome. So yeah. The Idler Wheel is Wiser Than the Driver of the Screw and Whipping Cords Will Serve You Better Than Ropes Will Ever Do is a great LP and very deserving of its win on my 2012 list, 4.5 stars. Next up, and netting the 1960s 2 points, we have Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music Volume 1 by Ray Charles from 1962. And this LP saw Ray break away from his more jazz-orientated style and take on a bunch of standards from the country and western genre, which was typically a white-dominated music form. But Ray changed the compositions to be more inclusive, reconfiguring them as R&B, soul and swing tracks. And this rather daring move came right at the height of the civil rights movement in America. Because of that, this album is considered to be of historical and cultural importance, and is also generally regarded to be Ray Charles' magnum opus. And for the most part, what we have here is a collection of grandiose sweeping ballads that liberally indulge in sumptuous orchestration and high society bandstand elegance. It's a really velveteen listen that feels like falling through expensive silk. Highlights include Ray's version of You Don't Know Me, which is probably the best version of that song ever recorded. The track sounds like taking a horse-drawn carriage through a winter wonderland, totally reveling in those Bing Crosby vibes. I Love You So Much It Hurts has a sauntering pace and a luxurious string arrangement that adds a dreamy texture. Although the ham-fisted title of the track can go and do one. Unless it's about how Ray went blind, like, he loved himself too much and went blind? Masturbation? Somebody kill me. Born to Lose is ridiculously rich and elegant. Its misery-tinged balladry is sounding akin to sinking into an old leather chair with a glass of aged scotch. Just a Little Loving Will Go a Long Way has a fun swing energy as Ray pines, "Put your arms around me, I'll be your slave." Don't do it, Ray! In no time you'll be dressed up in a gimp suit and chained to a radiator while she mercilessly cucks you right in front of your face. Which would be really frustrating. I mean, what's the point in her doing all that when you can't even fucking see it? Tracks like Worried Mind, It Makes No Difference and You Win Again are absolutely charming with their instantly appealing big band balladry. While I Can't Stop Loving You sees Ray craft another definitive version of a balladeering classic that has the atmosphere of a midnight slow dance near the bandstand. Or, as we seem to have established with Ray here on this episode, furiously rubbing one out in the bushes round the back of the bandstand. So yeah, despite inexplicably painting the great Ray Charles as some kind of demented pervert, I have nothing but respect for the man. This is a fabulous record stuffed with old world charm. 4.5 stars.
Though my heart aches for love, I'm afraid and shy.
Coming in next and netting the 1970s 3 points, we have The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie from 1972, which was Day's 5th LP. And what we have here is one of the most iconic and influential glam rock records ever recorded, and the album that shot Bowie to superstar status in the UK. Bowie's persona, the titular Ziggy Stardust, an alien come down from space to perform rock and roll songs, really hit the zeitgeist of the times, capitalising on all the glittery fashion and androgynous stylings that the kids were all yearning for back in the early 70s, with David's performance of Starman on Top of the Pops making him an overnight sensation. And as for the record itself, it's excellent. It's consistent, crammed full of iconic, super memorable tunes, and has a pitch-perfect 1970s production that's rich, warm and earthy. It's a record that really does sound great and immediately inviting. Highlights on a stamped and dated masterpiece include the amazing opener, 5 Years, which is a gigantic ballad that gradually builds up into a soar-away refrain that's as epic and catchy as you could ever possibly want. Moon Age Daydream is great with its shimmering glam, soulful Mick Ronson guitar solo and David's wonderful vocal melodies. Starman is one of the most iconic rock songs of all time for a reason. Its insane catchiness and unforgettable guitar riff is tailor-made for the halls of eternity. It Ain't Easy is a lot of fun with this explosive chorus that nestles in a soft spot at the back of your brain and never leaves. Ziggy Stardust has iconic guitarists for days and a fun cocksure swagger. Suffragette City grabs the attention with its thumping glammy energy and theatrical over-the-top elements. While Rock and Roll Suicide is a legendary closer with uplifting lyrics and a badass rolling guitar climax that was famously stolen by another LP featured here on this very list. So yeah, this is an obvious classic. In fact, the vast majority of professional critics would have this LP top this list. But this series isn't really about legacy or how iconic or influential records are, it's simply about how much I personally like them and how much I would want to listen to them. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars is a spectacular album, but the 3 above it on this list are hard all-time favourites for me personally, so here it must languish at number 4. Still, this gets an easy 5 stars. Next up, and netting the 2000s 4 points, we have Turn on the Bright Lights from 2002, which was a debut LP by the American post-punk band Interpol. And this album is another one with an iconic legacy, as the genre of gothic post-punk had laid dormant for a long time, consigned for a few dwindling acts from the 1980s, most notably The Cure, who were entering their late career malaise at the time. But the arrival of Interpol with their innovative angular guitar style, sweat-stained sultry vibes and mysterious, slightly dangerous sounding frontman shocked the genre back into life, inspiring a million young men to run out, buy a guitar and start dressing only in black, myself included. Interpol just managed to bottle a type of crackling urbane cool that very few bands ever get to touch. I mean, they were badass. And this LP is a slice of swaggering post-punk perfection, with every track finding its mark and its overall atmosphere bulging with vice-ridden darkness and gothic brilliance. Highlights from yet another stamped and dated classic includes Untitled, which is a perfect opener. The slow burn build-up, immediately distinctive guitars and sad low vocals instantly drawing you in. Obstacle 1 is straight in there with that iconic cool as fuck angular guitar style that the band pioneered and every post-punk band formed in their wake copied. Also, let's not discount just how badass the chorus is, as Paul Banks growls, "You'll go stabbing yourself in the neck." NYC is a phenomenal ballad that's soaked in a deep languorous misery that feels like being really drunk and really sad on a late night subway ride home after getting your heart broken. Say Hello to the Angels is amazing with its thumping whiplash pace and chiming guitars that echo This Charming Man by the Smiths. The New is a spectacular experimental piece that builds up to an awe-inspiring instrumental climax that is so fucking gnarly, while closer Lee F. Erickson is one of my favourite post-punk tunes ever, its mournful composition and Paul Banks' booming voice and addictively mysterious lyrics adding up to an unforgettable addition to the gothic pantheon. Mwah! Chef's kiss, that track is awesome. So yeah, Turn on the Bright Lights is a true masterpiece of its genre, and for me it was probably the best album of the 2000s. It was certainly the one that impacted me the most. I honestly can't imagine my own musical evolution without this particular LP. 5 stars. Next up, and netting the 1980s 5 points, we have Pornography by The Cure from 1982, which was the band's 4th LP. And here we find the band on the final stop of their early period Gothic trilogy, which also included 1980's 17 Seconds and 1981's Faith. Each of those records pushed the band's style on further and saw them exponentially improve at things such as atmosphere building and cohesive sequencing, with the band finally arriving at full-bore Gothic perfection right here on Pornography. And Pornography is, without a shadow of a doubt, the band's darkest album. It's an LP that deliberately plunges into a bleak world of harrowing lyrics and gnarled ugly soundscapes that do their best to avoid any sense of typical melodicism. And it's those very aspects that make the record so damn compelling. Opener 100 Years marinates in its own oppressive murkiness, its shrieking guitar lines letting you know exactly what kind of musical hellslide you're about to embark upon. Siamese Twins and the Figurehead sink into gothic dirge mode, adding layers of dour darkness and molasses-thick atmosphere to the procession. A short-term effect has some rad feedback-smothered guitar work that sounds like some kind of twisted whale song, like a whale's murder ballad or something. Best not play that shit underwater or a beluga might turn up with a flick knife. The Hanging Garden meanwhile was a bit lighter than most of the other tunes, with its rattling drums and catchy vocal lines giving a brief reprieve from the unrelenting gloom. Cold is so badass with its rich walls of grinding synth and killer intro that sounds like it could double as a pro wrestler's entrance theme. While A Strange Day is amazing with its steady beats and glowering bassline brought to life by Robert Smith's incredibly catchy vocals and ear-catching guitarists that seem to just lurch out of the track at you. So yeah, Pornography by The Cure is one of the darkest and most intense gothic rock records ever recorded. And just like Pornography by Pornhub, it's pretty damn hard to resist. 5 stars. Coming in first place and netting the 1990s a full 6 points, we have Your Arsenal by Morrissey from 1992, which was the former Smiths frontman's third solo LP. And here we find Morrissey forming a proper band and linking up for the first time with guitarists Alan White and Boz Bora, who would become his songwriting partners for the next 20 years or so. The bard also refocuses stylistically and dives headfirst into his love of 1970s glam rock, even going as far as to hire David Bowie's former guitarist Mick Ronson to produce. And the resulting LP pulled Morrissey's career out of the relative doldrums and launched him down a new path that would define his style for the rest of the 90s. And the record just absolutely slaps. This album is a true case of all killer, no filler. From the snarling metallic opener, You're Gonna Need Someone on Your Side, to glamorous Glue with its rad guitar dives and swaggering cool, the record gets off to a hot start and doesn't lull even once. We'll Let You Know is a gorgeous acoustic-leaning number that sees Morrissey use football hooliganism as a supremely moving metaphor for the passing of time and letting things from the older generation go. The ferociously rocking The National Front disco got Paul Mozart into some hot water with the racist allegations and whatnot. I mean, sure, it's pretty edgy with this inclusion of the phrase, England for the English, but if you pay the track a bit more attention, you'll realise that Morrissey is actually mocking racist organisations, insinuating that they're all a bunch of silly boys who talk very loudly but do nothing but hang around their clubhouse and have disco parties. Certain People I Know is a delightful pastiche of T-Rex's Ride a White Swan with some fun lyrics. While the twin hit singles, We Hate It When Our Friends Become Successful and You're the One for Me Fatty are irresistibly catchy tunes that rock out nicely and have their tongues firmly planted in their cheeks. But the emotional peak of the record comes with the back-to-back pairing of Seasick Yet Still Docked and I Know It's Gonna Happen Someday. Seasick Yet Still Docked is an awesome self-pitying dirge that used to really hit the spot for me when I was a lonesome teenager, with Morrissey concluding, My love is as sharp as a needle in your eye. You must be such a fool to pass me by. While I Know It's Gonna Happen Someday directly juxtaposes that self-pity with a blast of pure, unadulterated hope, with the bard pleading with you not to lose faith in your dreams and aspirations, as his band repeat that awesome swelling riff from Bowie's Rock and Roll Suicide. Mwah! Chef's kiss for both those songs, they are just phenomenal Morrissey tracks. Add into that the catchy rocking closer Tomorrow, and you have a pitch-perfect rock album that easily stands among Morrissey's very best work. I absolutely adore this record, and I always will do. 5 stars. So, pull your dick out of that sheep, unless you're Welsh, in which case carry on, who am I to get in the way of tradition, and turn your attention to the scoreboard. Finally claiming a clear lead, in first we have the 1990s with 16 points. In second we have the 1970s with 12 points. In third we have the 2010s with 11 points. In fourth we have the 1980s with 9 points. In fifth we have the 2000s with 8 points, and languishing in last we have the 1960s with 7 points. And that's the third round of Battle of the Decades in the bag. Of course, I know you'd rank these records differently, so why not sound off in the comments and tell me how you'd rank them? Of course, I fully invite you to make your own version of this tournament with your own personal albums of the year and post that in the comments too. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and all that other kind of YouTube jazz. Make sure to take care of yourself, but most importantly, just keep on ranking.